Thank you, Energynomics, for having me here. Thank you, SAMER, which is the Romanian Society of Energy Managers and Auditors in Romania, which I'm representing today. Thank you, Your Excellencies, for being here with us today. It's an honor to have you here. And thank you for the huge public. I was not expecting to have so many present. So I'm happy to see there is a lot of interest. There is a lot of interest in the topics and a lot of interest in collaboration between Hungary and Romania. Your battery is running low. Yes. Okay.
I saw it. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. Please allow me to change a bit the setting, because I know from experience that over there they can't see anything. So I'm just going to turn a bit the computer around.
Okay.
So they can see a bit.
Great. Thank you.
No worries. Right. So I'm going to talk to you about technical due diligence, of the service of technical due diligence. I work for LRQA. You're going to see the logo on each slide, so you're going to remember that. And in the context of the energy transition, in the context of decarbonizing. What I would like to avoid, except for this slide where I'm going to talk myself, but I would like to avoid the next slide that I talk by myself. So I kindly ask you to be involved to participate in the conversation, because at the end, you're here for that. So let's try to make a jointly conversation instead of a monologue. So right, my name is Anca Mutu, as I mentioned. Actually, I'm Anca Mutu-Kovács to integrate a bit in the Hungarian life. I'm an electrical engineer. I graduated in Cluj, in Transylvania, the Technical University, long time ago. And I have a master in energy management. I actually live in Rotterdam. Normally, it's kind of complicated, but in the past 2 months, I've been living in Budapest. Why? Because my husband Kovács, he was assigned for a couple of months in Budapest with his work. I've been always involved in different projects in decarbonization. And I think that is the bridge that unites us, in the sense that it unites the classic industries with the industries of the future at the end, because renewables, it's believed to be the future. Right, so that was all about, that was the entire part I want to present by myself, and the rest I would kindly ask you to participate, to ask questions, to stop, to make a dynamic presentation out of it. So let's stop a bit at why renewables. Why renewables? I think it was touched briefly. Why renewables? The best, yes, that's the best answer. It's the best in the context, in the given context. So His Excellency talked about the current context with our dependencies on other sources of less renewable energies, which are kind of in jeopardy at the moment. We have the potential in these countries. Yes, Romania and Hungary are there. And probably you're going to say, well, okay, we're not really Saudi Arabia. We don't have that kind of sun. We're not even Spain, so we don't have that kind of sun. But it's tricky with the solar energy, because it's not always that you need that kind of sun. And probably the climate of Romania and Hungary, which allows the solar panel to operate at high temperature and still be a bit cooled by the environment, makes them even better than Saudi Arabia with their solar radiation. As I mentioned before, Gabriel, please keep the time, because when I start talking, yes, I'm hard to stop. Right. I mentioned briefly about decarbonization, right? That's something that we all try to achieve. But some of our industries, they got so far, in the sense that energy efficiency, they work. I was talking to a client, as I was mentioning to Gabriel before starting this. They said, we did everything. We are as efficient, as energy efficient as possible. Where replacements were needed, we've done them with the best available technology. So it's there. So unless we change the source of energy, it's kind of difficult for process industry, for chemical industries to further decarbonize. So that's one of the reasons, of the many reasons, why renewables are today on the topic. Technical due diligence. On the technical due diligence, I would just like to tell you that there is, for some industries, technical due diligence is not a new service. It's kind of common business. It's known that when you buy something, when you invest in something, you're going to expect to have a technical assessment on what are you investing on. I think it's an expression that exists in all languages, but you don't buy the cat in a sack, right? So you want the cat to be out of the sack. It's exactly the same when you're doing a technical investment. In this case, in renewables. So it's basically a risk management tool. The various, maybe something else that I should say on technical due diligence. Before understanding this service, and again in the next slides I will involve you more because I would like to brainstorm from a Romanian and also from a Hungarian perspective what the risks are, what the opportunities are, because that's what the technical due diligence wants to bring, risk and opportunities. So at the end, when you calculate your financial model, when you take a decision, that you know what you're talking about. But before getting there, I would like to tell you that technical due diligence, we need to understand the current context, right? So we talk about renewables, but how many actual projects in renewable are developed? Do we have a lot of operational plants in Europe?
Yes, I think, yes. Not so much. No?
Not so much. Not so much. So indeed, there were experiments at a certain point when it started, maybe 30 years ago. If you remember, I mentioned, but I'm from Transylvania, and we had on the way to Câmpia Turzi from Cluj, we had 2 wind plants. That was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. We were all very enthusiastic about it, but it was nothing because at the end, 2 plants with the technology from then, it was, I don't know, 3 light bulbs or something. So it was not much. So the commercial power plants, what we're talking now, when we talk about gigawatts, they are kind of a novelty. As ridiculous as that sounds, but they are a novelty. It's the same with the service of technical due diligence. It's kind of a novelty. So the slides that I'm going to use further, I actually use them to train Banca Transilvania in Romania, because they are dealing with the same. So investment institutes, financing institutes, banks are dealing with the same question. How do we evaluate this kind of projects? How do we know that they are okay to invest in? You know, what guarantees our investment? Nothing, obviously, but there are some aspects that we can evaluate. So right, this is a structure that, getting back to the fact that TD is a novelty, there is not really a framework, or we can't really say, well, this is the standard, use the standard and check this point out and this is what you get. It's not working like this. So it's all more based on customized approaches. This is one of the approaches that we propose. So LRQA proposed to use modular approaches to evaluate different factors in a renewable, or different aspects of a renewable plant, and further talk about it. Technology. So right, now it's your turn. Let's think about technology, you know. I put on each slide, by the way, which at the end I think you can share them, right? Or I don't know how this works, if somebody's interested. But I put some key points about, or some questions, quick questions, what to ask yourself when you're evaluating the technology. But let's relate a bit to today's topics, you know. What we learned in the previous sessions, that batteries are going to produce closer to us. So that means that in terms of technology, when we will have a power plant with energy storage, we need to take that into account, that we will have a closer, which means more reliable or directly approachable source for the components, which at the moment, both wind and solar industry are in China. We have to face this. And if we're facing, again, an evergreen situation, you know, when one of the channels is blocked, we are paralyzed. We have nothing. So having these hubs, like the battery hubs in Hungary, it's amazing for this industry. These are things that you have to consider when evaluating technology. So when investing in such a project, look, what kind of supplier are we using? Remember that Canadian Solar is also a Chinese company. And I'm not saying that in a bad sense, because they are excellent producers. You know, I'm just saying that we rely on far away technology, let me put it this way. And any improvements in that are improvements for the renewable sector. Other aspects, yield energy production. Well, this I briefly touch in the comparison with Saudi Arabia or with warmer countries. It's not always in our advantage to have higher irradiation values, but it's always in our advantage to run an energy yield evaluation before investing in a project. And I'm sure there are a lot of companies, you know, I mean, not our, for example, because we have one expert who's running this kind of analysis, but like AstraZeneca, I'm 100% convinced you have experts in PV-Syst and wind meteo and whatever other sources, softwares are used for that. So energy yield evaluation, it's a key indicator of your assessment whether to invest or not in a renewable side. Right. This is also...
Please take into consideration 3 more minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I have 20 more slides.
The slide will be available for those interested.
Yes. No, that's fine. We're going to wrap this up because indeed I still have 20 slides more. So, you know, I told you to stop me. I'm too enthusiastic about it. But I think it's important to remember the site conditions in the sense that Romania and Hungary, they might be comparable potential-wise, you know, probably not wind, but solar-wise, they are definitely comparable. But you have to remember that Romania has a seaside. So whether you're investing at the seaside on a radius of 5 or 10 kilometers, I don't remember the exact numbers, you need to use marine-graded components. So your investment will also depend on that. Of course, you can choose not to, but then it's not really in your own advantage on the long term. So site conditions are always something to take into account based on the local regulations, like Hungary, that's not allowing grid connection for new renewable plants. Or Romania in the south, where we have the highest wind potential, but we have the weakest network at the moment. So transmission might not be our strongest point. And plus yes, I'm running through the slides, you will get them. But because this event is actually called Energynomics, I said, let's put some economics, let's add some economics to it, and let's add some values. So these values are from IRENA actually, and whenever you are curious in knowing more about data about energy and renewable energy, I highly recommend you IRENA. It's the International Renewable Energy Agency. And IRENA made some statistics related to the price, the yearly trends of these technologies. This is another incentive kind of to invest in renewables, because as you see, there is a descending trend. And while this might say, okay, 7%, you know, it's something, but it's less than the 20% inflation that Mr. Rottele was showing us, so you're not fixing a lot. But when we look at the bigger perspective, like a 10 years trend, we will see that, for example, in solar photovoltaic, the prices drop by 90%. So the technology is improving, or the prices with the technologies are improving. So that's something that helps us even more to drive these technologies further. This is an example, just an example for the required investment well, it's an approximate one, and probably AstraZan will have other values or more accurate values, because this is just the middle. How much it costs you to invest in 1 kilowatt of solar energy in Romania, and how much it costs you to invest in Hungary. Just as a comparison, so you have an idea. You will see that in the breakdown, you know, there's some parts like the margins are higher in Hungary, while in Romania are lower. But on the other side, permitting is more expensive in Hungary than in Romania. And there are some small differences in how this is being done. And I think that was 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Anca Mutu. If it was only my choice, I would only ask you to discuss on that final slide for 15 minutes long. But we will have this. Yeah, thank you very much. Please have a seat, and we'll have 20 minutes for conversation. Please feel free to ask questions, to add comments, and to discover more, to find out more from this lady and gentlemen here present.